Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at an excellent short book which has come to us from Jordan Publishing. It's on data protection. It's called Data Protection, The New Rules. It's been written by Ian Long. There's a very useful little video clip to go with this, which is well worth looking at. The book itself I thought was really excellent. It's very easy to read and it sets, I think, a very good standard, an understandable standard of where we are at the moment with data protection. It's with us to stay. I don't like some aspects of it at all, like many other people, but we have to recognise what the law is and how it can be used, hopefully to our benefit, notwithstanding it's a bit of a bureaucratic nightmare for some people. This is available, this book, as an e-book. Now, Elizabeth and I talked about the book and we've given our review, the review title for our written review, a straightforward explanation of the minefield of complex rules and regulations which make up today's modern data protection laws. Now that gives you some idea of what we're talking about. Here is the book itself. The spine, you can see there. It's only a small book, it's a paperback, then there's some detail there. And then what you have got is some very shortish index, which you've got there, which you can see. And then after that, it runs to 250 pages. You've got some useful information. How do I handle subject access requests? You've got a lot of very practical information which Ian has produced here. Now, let me just show the front part of the book. That's the front page. Ian Long is a solicitor, comes from with a great deal of knowledge. There's a very nice dedication. I always like to mention the dedications. Then you've got the contents section there, running through into various parts. You can see how it's structured. And then you've got, again, running all the way through. You've got 16 chapters and a series of appendices at the back, notification forms and so on, 8 appendices, and then the index. Now, the preface I have used extensively for the review because there have been a lot of changes, and Ian has set out, I think, very nicely where we are at the moment with the current rules. That's the end of the preface and some acknowledgements. Then we go into little short abbreviations, very helpful as well. Some cases, very few in reality. Some statutes, what a surprise. And then in addition to that, we've got, again after the statutes, some SIs. Then you've got the table of European International Materials. We're getting a lot of that at the moment. This is from Jordan's, his publication. We're going to continue having that information for some time to come, I would have thought, notwithstanding Brexit. Now after that you've got the part 1, because it's split into various parts itself, the current regime. Then you've got after that chapter 1, Introduction to Data Protection. You've got paragraph numbering, and you can see there is some footnoting. It's not over heavy with footnoting, but it's an excellent book and I thought it was very readable, which is why I'm doing the review, because we don't review books that we don't consider particularly helpful. This book is a very helpful book for practitioners, and I think for any business people, so I think it's much wider than just merely the practitioner. Let me go a little bit further forward and explain what we say in our written review, which is on the web and in the journals. This is an excellent short book by Ian Long, and is substantially overdue for lawyers and lay people alike. He says that this book is essential reading for all data controllers and data processors and anyone responsible for handling personal data, which is basically all of us today. We thought this book one of the best detailed short statements on data protection available today, and I'm sure that is right. It's only a short book, but it does sum things up, I think, very nicely and should push you in the right sort of area for what you might need. Now, in the preface, Long writes that data protection has become a minefield of complex rules and regulations, so his aim, successfully achieved, is to produce this excellent short book and his accompanying video, which can be viewed on the Jordan's website, which is most helpful. And I think that does help, because they've made things so difficult, putting it bluntly, they being Parliament and all the other people involved, to tell us what to do, and unnecessarily so possibly. However, that's what we've got to face, and we've therefore got to try and work out what to do. Although I'd love to have a simpler system if the guys in the House of Commons would be listening, but they're not, unfortunately. We should have something that is a lot simpler to deal with, but we haven't. The author also talks about personal data, describing it as hedged around with all sorts of controls to ensure its safety from prying eyes. Is what we say to that one. There is much cynicism around this point, although Long goes on to say that the new European Union data protection regulation will unify and strengthen the plethora of laws that affect every organisation, large and small, that handles personal data. Now, the list of those included as persons affected cover everyone involved in handling data relating to client, customers, employees and other individuals, all of whom will be an excellent market for this book, as its straightforward approach will appeal to all levels of readership. Long's intention has been to condense a massive EU and UK documentation into one practical and easy to read manual, which guides the reader through all the relevant changes clearly and simply. And we, the readers and users, certainly need this advice, as the data protection rules just continue to get more and more complex, in our view quite unnecessarily. And the book covers the following information for you and your businesses, which is set out at the back of the book. It's a simple, comprehensive description of the legal and regulatory provisions, a detailed analysis and commentary on the business requirements, great for business, clear examples and case studies, again very helpful if you've got a question you might want to pose, and sample data protection information security policies. I thought they were very helpful. It's good advice then that's on offer throughout the book, because the basic rule to be followed is that you must comply and be able to show that you comply. That's because you have new requirements and obligations to meet, and the author says that the new rules require many changes to business systems, policies and procedures, and the entire approach of organisations and professions towards personal data. Quote, now is the time to prepare for the new regime. And I think he's absolutely right on this, because for a lot of people they ignore what's going on and then it's a bit too late. So I think this book is actually just fits the bill quite nicely. Let me conclude by saying a very clear conclusion can be drawn with this short paperback. It's essential reading for all data controllers and data processors. I'm one myself, for instance, and anyone responsible for handling personal data. Most of us do, and that's a lot of people. So we can foresee a very wide catchment area for readership. And with Ian Long's particularly impressive and readable work, I'm very grateful that we have it. So thank you, Ian, and thank you to Jordan's very much for producing it. The law is as stated as at the 31st of May 2016, and I'm actually reviewing this in the late summer. There is the book again. It's a paperback, very light. There's the spine, just setting out what it says there, and then some information, some of which I've taken for the review, which is there. The back of the book, 250 pages. There's appendices. How do I handle subject access requests? Useful, very hands-on approach. And then you've got the index there. Not a detailed index really at all, and it's done by paragraph numbering as well. Now at the front you've got the actual contents section, which is quite detailed. You can see there's a lot of information. You should be able to find what you're looking for pretty quickly. I certainly did when I was thumbing through on particular questions that may arise for me, both as a practitioner and as someone who handles data. Your data processing and security, a very important area, and one that's going to grow, I'm sure, in the future. You can see, of course, the paragraph numbering clearly shown there with a little bit of footnoting. And then it is an e-book as well, so there's a little note there. Thank you to Ian, and thank you very much to Jordan's. An excellent title. I'm sure we're going to see more of this as Britain reassesses its role within the EU and the world in the next couple of years, because there are big changes afoot. So expect another edition of this before too long. Thank you to all anyway. Bye bye.